We're just ordinary people living ordinary lives until we see someone on TV win a $25,000 prize. Come on down. I'll play any game for 10 seconds of fame. Come on down. I'll make a deal, just let me spin the wheel. Come on down. To win $1 million, all you need is a little luck and thorough knowledge of multiple disparate trivial subjects.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Come On Down, the game show podcast hosted by me. I'm John Baker.
And I'm Jonathan Motney.
And on today's episode, we're going to take you through a game show called Supermarket Sweep. Mm-hmm. It's really big right now because it was just put on Netflix, which is...
The 1990 version.
Exactly, which is a very exciting moment. There have been a few different versions of the show, including an upcoming one. So we'll kind of take you through the history a little bit. We'll probably focus mostly on the 90s version because I think that's what most of us remember.
Yes.
It's what we're most familiar with. And we'll have some fun along the way. So, without too much further ado, Supermarket Sweep. It was developed in the 1960s. It first aired in 1965. Actually, what happened was, I think a beer company did some sort of giveaway where you won a shopping spree.
Okay.
And somebody saw that and thought it was pretty entertaining and went to this producer at Talent Associates, was the name of the company that produced it. The producer there was named David Susskind. He was a big-time producer. And he told him about this, said, hey, maybe there's a way to make that into a show. So David Susskind went to a guy named Jero Schnurr. That's
Do you have these names written down?
What?
Do you have these names written down?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I was like,
but
so
also
impressed if you were just remembering.
But
all
also,
of these
I mean,
names.
I could have made up the name Jero Schnurr right now because it's Jero Schnurr. That's not a real name, I don't think. So Jero Schnurr, who would later go on afterwards to do some directed a special in the Sistine Chapel and some ballet performances for TV. But first, he created Supermarket Sweep,
right,
the game show. And the original version of Supermarket Sweep, it aired from 1965 to 67. It took place in actual real grocery stores.
Okay. Like family owned, or I guess everything is family owned at that point, right?
Well, it was a family owned chain.
Okay.
Called Food Fair. I think they had like 300 stores or something like that. So it was significant.
So in order to buy the food, you had to play a game where you throw a loop on top of glass bottles, and that determined whether you could actually buy the food or not?
No, you could also shoot a water gun into a clown's mouth.
And it was like an actual real life clown.
Yeah. So Food Fair, today's episode, by the way, brought to you by Food Fair.
Yeah.
Went out of business in the 1990s.
R.I.P. Food Fair.
If you happen to be listening to this from the early 90s or earlier, head to Food Fair. But it was actually filmed in grocery stores in and around the New York area, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, et cetera, et cetera. And so they did, I guess the way shows kind of worked back then is they did test shows before it actually made it onto TV. So
kind of like pilot season, but for...
Right, but like they would do multiple episodes and just see if it was working, what worked, what didn't work. I don't think it ever aired on TV or anything like that. Just a big old test. And so they did these test shows. One thing they learned from the test show, it was generally husbands and wife pairs.
Okay.
That can be, there were 3 pairs of people that competed on the show kind of in every incarnation to this point. And in the 60s version, it was almost always husband and wife.
Because gay people didn't exist.
Well, yeah. But I mean, there are like friends and stuff in the 90s version that they're just regular old friends.
And domestic engineers.
Exactly. But they did it, and there's obviously the supermarket sweep part where you're running through the grocery store trying to get as much groceries into your cart as possible. And the issue became their research showed that women didn't like to see themselves frantically running around the grocery store.
Okay.
it was not very ladylike.
Okay.
So it was kind of formatted in just what seemed like a pretty sexist way in general. There was a question and answer portion at the beginning, which the women did, and then the running around the store grabbing stuff was for the men.
Okay.
But then what also popped up during a test filming or whatever was this big old guy who had a heart attack running around the store.
Oh my gosh.
Which was not ideal. Wasn't what they were looking for. So
you said this was during one of the test ones?
This was during one of the
Thank
test
God,
ones.
because if that was during one of the ones that were taping, they would have to throw that tape away.
Probably, yeah.
Oh.
So this guy had a heart attack. So then they made it, you had to be under 40. The man doing the sweeping had to be under 40.
That's ageist.
Yes, very. So in those cases, the woman would have like a brother or a friend or neighbor or something like that be the supermarket runner for them.
So the woman, there was no age limit on the woman.
No, you don't need to be a certain age to answer questions. You're not at high
Well,
risk.
you can't be like 2. You can't like be a 2-year-old woman and answer questions because you can barely talk. So
Okay,
we'll have to correct that part of the podcast.
I'm sorry. You're correct. You had to be older than 2 and less than 99.
Okay.
Do you remember that was on a lot of board games back in the day? It'd be like, for ages 6 to 99.
Yeah.
Which was also kind of ageist for like 100-year-olds.
Yeah, if you're 100, just die already. You remember when they said that on the box?
You're wasting our resources. Get out of here. So this was kind of generally how the game show worked. It was basically the beginning part was a ripoff of what the hell? The Price is Right, more or less.
Right, so because some of the games are guess the price of this product.
Right.
Or
So-
it's more like guess which product is over $2 or what product's
Exactly.
under $5.
So in the 60s version, it was even more specifically like, how much do you think this costs?
That's right, yeah.
and
I remember that there was no $1 strategy
Right.
because
The
you had
only
to get
difference
as
was
close
you
to
didn't
the-
have to be over, or
Yeah,
you
you had to be
didn't
as
have to
close to the
stay
price.
under. You could go over as long as you were the closest. So there were, a couple rounds of questions for these women. Basically, everybody started with 1 minute and 30 seconds on the clock.
Right off the bat, you had 1 minute 30.
All 3 teams had 1 minute 30 seconds for their sweep, and then each of the questions that your team got right would add time to your sweep.
Yeah. It was usually around like 10 seconds.
Yeah, 10 or 15 seconds per the questions that you got right, you would get added to your sweep. So after the few rounds of questions to the women, some of them would have 2 minutes, some of them would be dumb and stuck at 1.5 minutes, whatever it was.
Those were the 3-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so after this portion, the men would then come in with the shopping carts, and they would set them loose in the grocery store.
I mean, they would go nuts. They would fly through these.
Yeah, I mean, you've only got
supermarkets.
1.5 minutes, depending on the intelligence of your wife.
I mean, it would look dangerous.
It did. They would crash into each other at times, like turning the corners and things like that at full speed. And also there were cameramen in the aisles chasing them down, so that added another obstacle level. In the first few episodes of the 90s revival, they had Market Monsters.
Yeah.
It was like the temple guard in Legends of the Hidden Temple. Like, you'd be running through the aisle and some Dracula would just pop up and try and scare you and slow you down. They realized
you have 1 minute 30. Let them have the full 1:30.
no, but we got the rights to Frankenstein, so we've got to incorporate that somehow. Those didn't last long.
That was only a couple episodes.
That was only a few episodes, and they decided the Market Monster was a stupid idea. So
It had nothing to do with the show. Everything. What I like about this show is that every aspect of it,
focused.
every question, it was all focused on supermarkets, or this was a product placement wet dream.
oh god, it was
Literally
all product
every
placement.
question had something to do with specific brands too. So I like that everything fell into this theme, and that's why Market Monsters failed so miserably, because it was so far out of left field and it made no sense.
That's a good point. So yeah, they had the Market Monsters for a few episodes in the 1990 version, but so in the 60s version, the husbands would race around The goal was to try and accumulate as much value worth of groceries in the time limit as possible.
Yeah.
And as the host, Bill Malone of that original version would say right before the sweep, remember, everything you sweep is yours to keep.
Ooh.
So this was actually real groceries that these people
Oh my
got
gosh.
at the end of the show. And that actually influenced their casting because they would, like we said, they would move around from grocery store to grocery store kind of in the greater New York area. And they would do casting by looking around the area for people that they called happy worthies.
Right. And these were people that were usually dead sprinting in other supermarkets. And they were like, you know what?
They went in with a stopwatch and ran some drills. They had the grocery store combine.
Yeah. So what would be some of the combine things? Obviously speed running.
Yeah, I mean, there's speed running, there's agility, getting around obstacles and things like that.
I feel like one
Wet
of them would be
floors.
they would attach some sort of like heavy turkeys around your waist, and you'd be timed on
Yeah,
how
I
fast
mean,
you could run
there would
down.
have to be when your cart gets heavy, that's going to slow you down. You've got to be able to do some weight training with a heavy cart, things like that. So they were looking for people who were happy, were photogenic, and would be good TV presences, but also worthy, meaning people that needed food.
That was a thing that they were looking for?
That was a thing that they were looking for. These people deserve these groceries that they're getting. And in this original incarnation, there was no limit on numbers of a specific item that you can get.
Okay.
Like, you can go and get 25 turkeys if you could fit 25 turkeys in your cart and get
You
them
can't.
back to the
That's
loading area.
way too many turkeys for
Depends
one
on the
cart.
size of the turkey. Is this a baby turkey?
Yeah, I always go to get those baby turkeys.
You go to Albertsons and get a lot of baby turkeys these days.
Is that like
You could fit 25 of those.
yeah.
But so yeah, they were looking for happy worthies is what they called them, because everything you sweep is yours to keep. And there were also some bonus items that if you got the Tootsie Roll Pops, if you were able to find the Tootsie Roll Pops and
Yeah.
put them in your cart, you got a bonus $100 or up to like $250, I think, something along those
Which
lines.
and just for context, bonus $100 is significant.
Oh,
because
yeah.
these people at the end are doing these sweeps and they're hitting around $300 to like $600.
Right.
Like a great sweep would be like $800-900.
Yeah. So you're looking for the bonus items. You're frantically running through the store trying to get everything. And then at the end of the sweep time limit, they would start it with the people who had the longest amount of time, obviously, and then kind of release the hounds based on how much time you had left.
Yeah.
So if you got 2 minutes,
Not the hounds, the happy worthies.
the happy worthies, they would release the happy worthies. So if you got 2 minutes, you started. 30 seconds later, the people with a minute and a half would be released to run about the store recklessly.
And just for everybody listening, he didn't have that written down. He did that math in his head.
I got a 700 on the math portion of my SATs
Oh my
back in the day. But they would also set up like bleachers inside the grocery store because they had live audiences inside of these real food fair grocery stores as well.
Okay.
So, I mean, that was weird, I thought. But,
Well, how is he supposed to get a studio audience in there?
I mean, that's true.
You can't put them in the
obviously.
aisles. Now they're
All right,
basically
yeah.
market monsters,
They're-
but without the monster part.
Yeah, so they're in the bleachers. And it's all set up to where, again, whoever has the most value of groceries in their cart or carts at the end of the sweep is the winner. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And so in this 60s version, that was basically the end of the show. They would do 2 competitions per episode, which was kind of standard for game shows back in the days. Mm-hmm. It generally wasn't just one competition like we're used to seeing more recently. They would do 2 in a day, and actually in this version, the champion would stick around.
Oh, really?
And participate again.
Okay.
So it would just be 2 new couples.
So that wasn't the issue, or that wasn't the thing with the 90s, right? 90s
Right.
was always
No,
3
90s was always
people,
three new
except for like
couples.
special reunion.
Right.
Okay.
And so that was basically how this ended, and the people with the highest score got that value in cash as
Yeah.
well. The winners got cash plus the groceries that they swept. So that was the 60s version. Only 7 of the, I don't know, like 400 or 500 episodes from that version exist to this day. Because back in the day, what TV stations would do was like, remember like in the 90s when you wanted to record something onto a VHS tape?
Yeah.
And your sister would get mad because you recorded over something
Mary-Kate and Ashley.
Yeah, that she had recorded. That was just how TV stations worked back in the day. They'd be like, "Oh, hey, we've got a new show we need to record. Let's just tape over this old show that we don't do anymore."
I mean, it's efficient.
It is efficient, but then you lose gold, you know?
I mean,
so
that's a good point.
So only 7 episodes of that version survived. It was revived for the Lifetime network in 1990.
Also known for my mom's my evil stepmom, 1, 2, and 3.
Which is
Can't
your
Find My
favorite
Dad.
of the trilogy, by the way?
Clearly the second one, and I'll tell you why. Because the first one, they were finding their footing. And they finally developed these characters. By the end of that movie, they were fully fleshed out. And then the second one came in. They knew that what they were going with. And I like that they all died at the end. Spoiler alert.
All right, yeah. If you guys are going to watch My Mom's My Evil Stepmom 2, just disregard what we just said. Strike that from the testimony. So 1990, it was revived. David Ruprecht was the host of this version.
Let's talk about David Ruprecht.
What do you want to
just
talk
for a
about
second?
him?
For those of you who have not seen this, and I recommend it. It is a fun show.
It's on Netflix.
I scoffed at it because I was like, this is ridiculous. This is so cheesy. And then like everything, you're like, okay, this is just the style of this show. David Ruprecht is introduced after the contestants are introduced. He comes out with doing a light jog, goes to his host stand, and he looks like he looks like a kid that has dressed up for a middle school dance.
So hot.
He has a child's haircut, but it's gray. He's got gray hair. He's got very baggy, billowy, pleated khakis.
This was 1990. Let's remember.
Usually a harsh colored shirt and a tie that didn't really seem to match color scheme wise.
Loud generally.
Yes. So it's jarring right off the bat.
Yeah, it's 90s. It's late 80s, early 90s aesthetic, I mean, to a T.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you remember or you think you remembered that time period looking like. Also in this version, all of the contestants, each couple had like a matching sweater.
Yes.
It was just a solid color and a collared dickie that they wore underneath it. And what I learned was very interesting.
We're thinking the same thing.
The consolation prize for the losers was you got to keep the sweater, but not the dickie.
Yeah.
You got to keep your sweater, which was like a solid purple sweater or something like that.
And did you know what happened to the people who won?
What do you mean?
They did not get to keep their sweater.
That's bullshit.
I guess they were like, oh, they got money. That's enough for them. So only the people that lost got to keep the sweater.
I mean, well, the good news is you only have to repurchase 2 new pairs of sweaters after every episode. That's just efficient.
Yeah.
You will never run a game show unless you start realizing
all that all that money we
it.
sank into filming stuff. Fuck it. Let's recycle it. Sweatshirts. We're gonna buy new ones. That's
smart.
fine.
But only 4 per episode.
Yeah.
So this version was a little bit different. It was not in a real grocery store. It was on a Hollywood studio stage.
A much, much smaller grocery store.
Yeah. It looked like a
There's maybe 4 aisles, maybe max.
Yeah. It wasn't very big. It was fake. I mean, it was set up to emulate a Hughes family market, which was a smaller chain in California. It's been bought out by Ralph's since then.
Okay.
But it was set up to emulate that. And also, because it wasn't a real grocery store, the food was not necessarily always real.
Yeah.
And what was real was just reused over and over. So it was like the same block of cheese for an entire season of the show, just sitting in there because it was a stage.
Yeah.
And they'd just empty out the carts and put them back on the shelves after each episode. So this one started, again, there was a live studio audience up in the bleachers. And I guess upon entry, each couple was given a grocery product.
Okay.
And the show started with a kind of Price is Right style announcing of who
That's
the
right.
3 contestants were.
Yeah.
And it would be like, Wolf Brand Chili, you're a contestant. And the people who had a jar of Wolf Brand Chili would stand up and freak out and run down to their podium. And so that was, I guess, how the contestants were selected.
Because we couldn't wait more than 3 seconds to get that product placement started going.
Oh, no chance. I mean, there were products at the end when they're tabulating the final money in the carts were like just beautifully organized to where all like the Tide and Shout logos were perfectly facing camera, set up beautifully. It was insane. It was all product placement. It was one big grocery advertisement. And so this one was a little bit different. It wasn't always or even frequently husband and wives. There was a lot of friends, brothers and sisters, mothers, daughters, things along those lines in the pairs. And the format was a little bit different. There were again, you started with a minute and a half right off the bat. And
David Ruprecht would always explain it. Everything he talked about seemed like he was trying so hard to make it seem like it was just off the cuff. So when he would give people time, he'd be like, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just throw 130 up. And it's like, well, hold on. We know you're going to do that.
I know he just had that idea.
Every episode?
They decide every episode whether they're going to do a minute and a half or not. And just coincidentally, every episode they did.
Well, because David Ruprecht was a very kind,
he's
generous
a generous
man.
soul. I mean,
generous boy.
If you read anything about him, you'll realize that he was very generous with his time.
What did he do that was outside of being generous in the show? What did he do that was in his life that was generous?
He was on some soap operas, which is very generous
with his
to
time.
Like housewives and things like that. The general 90s soap opera audience. Domestic engineers.
I keep saying that because that was apparently politically correct at the time. Nobody really said they were a stay-at-home mom.
So that was how like a stay-at-home mom was introduced. And when it was like, oh, so you're a domestic engineer?
Well, they would say it.
Oh, they'd say, I'm a domestic engineer when he says, what do you do?
Which I laughed because I was like, that's ridiculous. What is that? And John right away was like, John is my wife. She was like, that's what they would call stay-at-home moms. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh. Do you need an engineering degree for that?
You do. They went to school for 4 straight years.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, good for them. But so this was formatted slightly differently. There were 3 rounds where you were earning time at the beginning. And so for the first round, one of each of the couple would go away. I don't know, just off camera slightly, I presume.
Yeah.
And they would kind of do questions or games. Again, almost always grocery related. With the 3 people that are there. And so one of my favorites on one of the episodes that I watched, they were asking basically, what is match the celebrity to their favorite snack?
Yeah.
And the way the question was introduced was, according to a recent book called blah, 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 published by the Snack Food Association, what is Mel Gibson's favorite snack food? And there was like an answer bank. And what the fuck is
the answer was
Snack
not
Food
matzah.
Association? No, that certainly wasn't. But I just couldn't believe that there was an author of a book called the Snack Food Association.
I mean, this was clearly put together by some snack food employees.
Oh, it had to be. I mean, it was Nabisco just trying to. It
was Mr. Nabisco, and he was like
Ted Nabisco.
Ted Nabisco. What do you think Ted Nabisco would sound like?
Ted Nabisco? Oh, it would sound like this. I've got to make some snack foods. I've got to. Oh, do you know what Mel Gibson loves? Mel Gibson loves Cheetos. Come down and get some Cheetos from your local food fair.
Was Cheetos the answer?
No, I don't remember what it was.
Was it? I was gonna say hamburgers, but that was Hasselhoff.
He loved hamburgers?
In a drunken stupor was.
Yeah, I remember
laying
when
on the ground.
His daughter recorded him or
Right,
something.
right.
Also, that I don't know if that's a snack. But anyway, I thought it was very weird where they sourced some of these questions from books by the Snack Food Association. Who's buying that book?
Seems
I don't
suspect.
know. But if you know where I can get that book, send me a link because I would love it.
I want to know what 90s celebrities
I want it
snacks that
on
they
my
like.
coffee table immediately. So they would ask those questions. You would get time added again if you were like 15 seconds if you were able to get the question right. But also in this version, there were mini sweeps, which was a new feature in this version where they would ask a question in kind of a rhyming couplet
Always a rhyming couplet.
format.
They loved rhyming on the show.
So it would be something along the lines of, if you want to go out and do some mingle, then grab this pop of chips that we call, and then they'd have to buzz in and go Pringles. And generally the questions were formatted a little bit better than that.
I don't think so. That was pretty spot on for what it
Thank
sounded
you.
like.
And
They made it pretty easy.
Yeah,
Like it
and-
wasn't a stumper.
And then that person would have 30 seconds to run through the fake grocery store and try and bring back some Pringles.
Right.
And if you did it in 30 seconds, you got $100 or a $50 bonus.
Yeah.
And if you did it in 20 seconds, you got $100.
And it wasn't just any box of whatever.
There was a specially marked. It had the
was-
supermarket sweep logo. On
which
it.
was the outline of a grocery cart, the wheels, and then like 6 or 9 maybe squares to make it look like there's something in the cart.
Yeah. So that was the mini sweep. So you were earning some bonus dollars that would then be added to your total at the end of the main sweep.
And the amounts of money were about the same as the 60s version.
It wasn't significantly different.
No.
Yeah.
It was still, the bonuses were still 50 to 100. I think the biggest bonus was 200. I think I saw episode
I think I
of the
might have seen a
90s.
250, but
Oh, wow.
but
So that's huge because the totals
the
at the end
totals
were
could be
still
like
around.
$400.
Yeah.
So I mean that almost 50% more than what you grabbed from the shelves. But
Again, he did that math without writing it down.
hey man, I don't like to brag.
Wow.
So that would be the first round. The second round they would swap out the people, and then these people would go off camera.
It was sort of like a swinger situation. They would swap each other's couples. And,
Yeah. Exactly. They had to put their keys in the shopping cart.
yeah.
Whichever one you drew out asked.
You
the
had to have sex
guy-
with on camera.
Oh
Oh, they didn't.
no! Did you?
I watched a different one
Okay,
and I liked it.
sounds entertaining. Anyway, so they would the second partner would answer a question at this point. Whatever, I don't know. It was some grocery stuff again, and then for the final round, both partners would be there, and there were 6 questions that our boy Davey Roop would ask them, and they would between questions alternate. So they would go one person in front, one person in back, one person in front, one person in back. Who was the designated answerer?
And they had to do it each time. Every time an answer was answered correctly,
swapped.
all 3 of them had to switch.
Yeah. And so that, again, these are adding 15 seconds or whatever to your time for each one that you get right. And now we're at the end of the trivia portion, and we've got all our times, and now each team has a designated sweeper.
Can I, before we go further, can I talk
Yeah.
about, because these happened on the commercial breaks, the teasers that they would say.
Oh, this was so weird.
So when they would leave for commercial, I guess it's pretty typical. You want the viewer to come back, so you will sometimes hang a little, dangling carrot, be like, "Come on back, so you can figure this out."
Yeah.
This is an actual teaser from the first episode of the '90s. I worked on my David Ruprecht, but it couldn't get close, so I'm not even going to try.
Okay, don't worry about it.
I've got some news for all those lobster lovers out there. It turns out that some lobsters are left-handed and others are right-handed. When we come back, I'll tell you how to spot the difference.
Right, I see. I was gonna turn it off at that point. I thought I was done. I saw everything I needed to see.
Hold on. Lobsters are what?
Right. So, but when I learned about the lobsters, I had to come back and just to, I don't know if you've got more to say about this, but I was shocked that when we came back and got there was like a full 30 to 45 second explanation of the anatomy of lobsters and how you can tell which lobster you have is right or left-handed. Like,
the answer was whatever claw's bigger is the hand that they are dominant with.
But he didn't say it in those 5 seconds.
No, of course not, because that is efficient and quick and...
But also, who the fuck cares?
Oh, wow. So you obviously aren't a lobster lover, but some people are,
But
dude.
again, this is a grocery show.
No, I agree.
And so to me, it was like, hey, here's a fun fact. Did you know that this cow had a mother that it loved very much? Now you're eating it. Like that was what was so weird to me.
You
I was
tore
like,
this family apart.
I don't need to know everything about this lobster before I eat it.
I will say that they got a little more, they got closer to the theme of grocery store as I watched a couple episodes, but still they weren't directly related.
It was just weird fun facts that they threw in there that I don't know that we needed to know at all. I think the teaser could have been coming up 3 people run like crazy banshees through a grocery store.
Yeah.
And I would continue to watch at that point.
Yes.
So again, this was very similar. People raced through the grocery store. There were bonus prizes in there. They tried to rack up along the way.
And the bonus prizes were like huge inflatable beers.
Yeah, or a gigantic Kit Kat inflatable that looks like you could float on it in your pool or something.
Yeah, they were seriously that big.
I mean, I guess the point was that it was like big and bulky, and you had to like take the time to do that separately.
Right, it was a
you
little
can
bit of a
just throw it
sacrifice
into your cart. But there were also other things in there, like if you get a pound's worth of Werther's candy, that's $100.
Yeah.
And there was like a Werther's dispenser and a little baggie that you had to pour it into and make sure you had a pound to get it back up there, whatever, to get the bonus. So they would go through trying to get bonuses, trying to get as much. In this version, you can only get 5 of each item. Was the other thing.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So the big like turkeys or whatever that are going to cost a lot more money, you can only max out at 5 of those.
And we keep saying turkeys because it is a clear running theme that you go for turkeys.
Yeah, and people run to the meat aisle and just start dumping shit in their cart as quickly as possible. So again, at the end of this, they count up the value of the groceries. They add in any of the bonuses they got there, as well as any of the money bonuses they got from the mini sweeps earlier, and declared a winner. The difference in this one is that there's now a bonus sweep for just the winning team.
For $5K.
Right. So the 2 losing teams, they took their sweaters and went home.
But not the Dickie.
Not the Dickie. They returned the Dickie. They took the sweater and they went home happy. But the winning team, to win, in addition to the money that they'd earned up to that point, which could be $1,000 in some cases with the bonuses and things like that I saw, they could win $5,000 additional dollars with the bonus sweep. And the way the bonus sweep worked was there were 3 items that you had 60 seconds to find in the grocery store.
Yeah.
But you didn't know what those items were. There was a riddle. And so David
loved riddles and rhyming
riddles
on the show.
and rhymes. There was almost always a rhyme. So David Ruprecht would read you the first clue, the first little riddle, and the timer would start, and you took off trying to find whatever the item you thought was the solution to that clue.
Yeah.
And
these
again,
weren't as easy as the mini sweeps, but they weren't
weren't
hard.
that
They were
hard.
harder, though.
I mean, some of them I felt like because it was 30 years ago. It was products that aren't around anymore, so I struggled to figure out what the answer was. But it was a race to find that one thing. Again, it's going to have a specially marked supermarket sweep logo on it because you've got to pick it up, and on the back side of that is the next clue. So you find that first thing, you've got the clue to find the second thing. You've got to find the second thing, you've got the clue for the third thing, and now you've just got to pick up the third thing before the clock runs out, and you win. By the way, I watched 4 episodes every single time they won.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I just watched a random smattering of episodes, and they won every single time.
Oh, we're talking about 90s version now, right?
Yeah, 90s version.
Okay, I only saw it happen once, and I guess I only watched 2 episodes.
Right. And so I guess it wasn't super uncommon to win, but you won the $5,000 bonus on top of the money that you previously won in the show. And
$5,000 based on these people's reactions looked like it was $400,000.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also inflation and whatever, like 1990.
But what is? I guess that's probably $10K.
Are you so rich you wouldn't be excited to get $5,000 right now?
I mean, these people lost their shit.
Well, they're also on TV.
Yeah.
You have to be.
Oh, and we forgot to tell you a little fake or a little. Never mind. Fuck it. I said fake already.
Were you gonna make up a story?
Yeah, I was gonna say that they were like injected with cocaine or something.
We're gonna tell you a little fake thing here that I'm making up right now. Yeah, and so I remember when this show was on, watching this version.
Did you watch it
as a kid, here and there? But what it really brought me back to was what I was much more excited for as a kid. On Nickelodeon, they would occasionally have like contests where you could win a Toys R Us shopping spree, and it was like 5 minutes, and it's just like kids just tearing through Toys R Us, and it was as much stuff as you could get in 5 minutes you got to keep. Wow. And that was like my dream. I remember like when my parents would take me to Toys R Us as a kid, like strategizing, like, okay, if I got the spree, where am I going to start? What am I going to get to maximize my, like, okay, where are the Ninja Turtles action figures? Yeah. Where's the Legos? You know, where are
you starting?
I mean,
my strategy would be start small and then go for the bigger things.
I mean, that makes sense, but you also got to consider
it's more
the layout of the store.
Yeah.
Like what can you get to most efficiently? These are all things that 7-year-old me was kind of obsessed with. And like, I remember they had video games at Toys R Us, but it was like, I don't know if you remember, it was a little pocket with a sheet of paper in it that said like Madden 94. And then you had to go...
The little plastic thing, the separator?
Yeah, it was like in that little thing, and there was little sheets of paper that said whatever the game was on it and had a barcode, and you had to take it to the register when you checked out, and they would scan it, and then somebody would go and get it because it was in the back or something like that. And I also remember thinking I could just like just picking out. I would own every video game in the world. It would be amazing. Yeah. I never got to go on the Toys R Us shopping spree. So
I'm sorry, man. That's tough.
So Toys R Us, if you're listening.
They're not, because they're out of business.
No, there's one back in business.
No way.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania or something. I don't know.
So it's like the lone Blockbuster?
Yeah. They're bringing it back. So Toys R Us, if you're listening, if you need promotion for your grand relaunch, and you need somebody to do a 5-minute shopping spree on Nickelodeon to promote it, I'm your guy.
I feel like that would be popular now still.
The Toys R Us shopping spree?
Getting to run through a store and steal stuff, but you're not really stealing it because you're allowed to. But
if you imagine you're stealing it makes it even more fun.
Yeah,
the thrill of that is just unbelievable.
The Winona Ryder experience.
Ooh, that's a good way to
was
sell
that
it.
90s? That had to be 2000s, right?
Yeah, it must have been 2000s. R.I.P. Winona.
No, she's alive.
Oh, she is.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Glad to have you here with us, Winona. But yeah, it was that was kind of my dream. I feel like I kind of related to Supermarket Sweep in that way.
That was like the kid version.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a whole lot of excitement there. I also remember in watching one of the 60s episodes the other day, something that really stood out to me as funny was when they were doing the Price is Right ripoff portion of the game. One of the things was 1 pound of beef shin meat
Oh.
And I was kind of horrified by it because why can't I get that now? I was upset.
Did you look it up? What is it? What it sounds like?
No, I didn't look it up because I don't do good research. But it sounded ridiculous.
Yes, that's disgusting.
And I couldn't believe that was a thing that you could just buy at the grocery store and that you generally knew the price of. And now let me be clear. I don't know the price of anything in the grocery store today.
Yeah.
I would be absolutely terrible at any of these price guessing games because I don't know. Well, first of all, I'm not allowed to grocery shop for my house
Okay. Why is that?
because I get too much good stuff.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and break this down. What is good stuff to you?
Good stuff. Anything on the aisle that includes like Doritos and
So chips,
chips and
cookies.
cookies and other
So you
assorted
know
snack
Ted Nabisco personally.
food. Ted Nabisco and I go way back.
Yeah.
That's why I'm able to do such a good impression of him. And I'm not efficient at. I would be awful at the spree,
Dude.
because I'm very inefficient at.
We have to talk about this because I have the same exact point. I have been grocery shopping since I was, early 20s. I'm 34 now. And
Congratulations.
thanks. I would be going up and down the same aisle over and over and over. I do it now in my real life. I don't know why I wouldn't do it. I don't know what it is, but I can't just know that the same store I go to every time I go shopping, the aisle, whatever, 8 is. I've been in a store before, in a Kroger, and I've looked up on my phone for a particular thing, and
see
it
if they
tells
said
you
what
which
aisle it was
it's
on?
Yes.
I do that in Home Depot all the time.
Okay, Home Depot, a little different.
Sure.
That store is ridiculous. But yes, it's the same thing.
Yeah, so there are two things that I do wrong in the grocery store aside from buy all of the Nabisco's
Who told
products.
you? Is this your wife who's telling you that these are wrong?
Oh, she doesn't just tell me. She like physically abuses me while telling me.
Gosh, dude.
We'll edit that part out. So one of the problems I have is that, well, I guess these are both go very much hand in hand. I'll be walking around and I'll see cream cheese and I'll say, oh, I need bagels. But now I'm like 8 aisles past the bagels
Sure.
when I get to the cream cheese. So now I've got to go all the way back to the bagels.
Was cream cheese on your list, or you're just making a snap judgment as you walk by the cream
What's
cheese?
a list?
That was a dumb question. I'm sorry.
So that's part of the problem of my inefficiency. And again, this ties into the other thing, which is I think the grocery store should be organized completely differently. Because for example, I had some friends coming over and we were going to make s'mores,
Okay. Back in your sweet fire pit out back?
Yeah, we're going to build a fire and make some s'mores.
Okay.
And so you need s'mores materials. And so I go to the grocery store and I go down an aisle.
Why did you go and not, why were you tasked with this? If you're bad at it.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Maybe because it was a simple task.
Probably, yeah.
We need 3 things.
Exactly. So I need graham crackers, I need marshmallows, and I need chocolate.
Correct.
And so I go down an aisle and I find the Hershey's bars and just two little segments over in that same aisle, I find marshmallows.
Sure.
And so I grab both of those
The
things.
candy and sweets
I
aisle.
put them in my little basket or whatever. And now
You were using a basket for 3 things?
well, you never know what you're going to find along the way.
Okay.
And they offer it when you walk in. I don't want to be a dick. And
They offer it.
you need
You
a
go to a
cart.
place that has a concierge.
You need a cart. You need a basket. Where do you shop?
Not this fancy place you go to.
Yeah, I guess not.
You probably go to a Sam's Club.
Yeah. And so I've got the chocolate, I've got the marshmallow, and now I'm just walking up and down this aisle looking for where the graham crackers are.
Which usually...
And I'm thinking, okay, there's chocolate, there's marshmallow, they're right by each other.
Yeah.
These people know that I want to make s'mores.
Clearly.
This is the s'mores material aisle.
Yeah.
Where is the third ingredient of s'mores?
Mm-hmm.
It should be right here with these other s'mores ingredients.
In your opinion.
In just God's opinion, factually,
Okay.
those 3 things should always be together.
Okay.
Peanut butter and jelly, aren't they on the same aisle? I don't know.
We're the two worst people to talk about this because I have no clue.
If not, they should be.
For all I know, the jelly is next to the turkeys.
I've watched a lot of Supermarket Sweep, and I've never seen jelly next to the turkeys.
Okay.
So
all right. So probably
maybe not. But yeah, it was like 4 aisles away with like the crackers or whatever.
Okay.
Or the cookies maybe.
Yeah,
which was a different aisle. But I mean, I probably spent 5 to 10 minutes walking up and down that one aisle, just convinced like, okay, they know I want s'mores. Yeah. Where's the last piece of the puzzle? Mm-hmm. And I've never seen anybody get 5 minutes worth of time banked on Supermarket Sweep. So I'm screwed.
Yeah, nobody's ever gotten 5.
If s'mores was a bonus item, we lose.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not good at grocery shopping. I would be terrible at this game.
Yeah.
I would be terrible at
I don't think
guessing
you'd be
prices of
terrible. I
things.
think you would be. I think honestly, you would have to have your wife do the sweeps.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
I feel like you're good at trivia. You're good at you're pretty good.
General trivia, yeah, but I don't like the prices again. If it's a price thing,
Yeah, I
might
guess
be
you wouldn't do
screwed.
good on that. But the what about the word scramble?
there were some word scrambles and things like that. I could probably figure that out.
Yeah.
I could probably deduce what Mel Gibson might love some Vegemite or something like that.
Yeah.
So I could probably get some of that, yeah. But I would definitely not be the sweeper. That would not be my job.
Yeah.
But the good news is, we might have a chance to find out because
Why?
Supermarket Sweep,
No, don't say it.
it's coming back
What?
this year.
Oh my gosh.
Allegedly. I don't know. We've got the whole.
Yeah, we'll see.
The whole.
If anything,
The whole.
who must not be named.
Kind of gumming up the works, but it's scheduled to come back this fall at some point. On ABC.
Okay.
And hosted by your very favorite comedian, Leslie Jones.
Not my favorite comedian.
Not your favorite.
Not my
No.
favorite comedian. No.
Anybody's favorite comedian?
I don't. Maybe.
Is there anybody like?
Twitter's favorite comedian?
No, I think like she got like abused on Twitter.
Yeah, but she had the other half of Twitter come to her.
Okay, yeah, I mean that's fair. The people that aren't assholes, racist or whatever. I don't know. Like we are involved with a lot of comedy people. We perform comedy and things like that. I don't know anybody that has ever been like, oh, I really want to see that because I love Leslie Jones.
Yeah, but I was thinking about this. I'm not a huge fan. I do have respect because she is to date the oldest individual that's been able to get on SNL, which is super hard to do as a young person, probably even harder if you're older.
Right. You give up at some point, probably. I mean, I'm not trying to like despair it. I'm thinking
for sure.
No, if you haven't made it at a certain point, a lot of people give up.
I think that her personality would be good for game shows.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I mean,
she's like animated. She's loud.
What's your favorite Leslie Jones character? Is it Loud Angry Woman or is it Loud Angry Woman?
Well, I think my new one is going to be Loud Game Show Host.
Loud Game Show Host Woman. Yeah, you might be right. I think here's the thing about Leslie Jones.
Okay.
And obviously as we mentioned, there are a bunch of angry racist people that dislike her.
Sure.
I remember. So what happened was she was a writer on SNL. She was hired as a writer.
Right. That was her first hire.
And there was an episode where she did a bit on Update. She talked about, I want to say it was something like how good she would have been as a slave or something
Correct.
like that. And I remember watching it and it was really funny.
Because she's a large woman and,
Yeah, I remember watching it and thinking it was really funny.
It is funny. That's a hilarious.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny. And so.
Because she talked about how she would give birth to Shaq.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Somebody else, some giant
Right.
dude.
So I remember thinking it was really funny. And then it was very quickly afterwards, she got hired as a featured player on SNL after that. And so this is why I believe that like Leslie Jones, even though we're kind of ambivalent to her in general, is our fault.
Okay.
And I don't just mean me and you. I mean our like society.
Okay.
Because I think what happened was at SNL, aside from Keenan, who went, knuckle pucked himself onto that show in like 2000 and has been there ever since. It's a lot of white people. I think at the time they were struggling to increase their diversity.
Sure. There was a pretty big push. For it.
And I think this one black woman did this one funny thing, and they were like, "All right, she's the star of the show now. Let's this is our key. This is how we get the diversity points. Now let's push her out there. Let's push her everywhere." And then she got Ghostbusters and a bunch of things after that. But yeah, I think you might be right that the maybe kind of loud, excited personality is perfect for, because this is a very rambunctious game show. It's not Jeopardy,
No.
It's not Millionaire. It's exciting. It's high energy.
It is. It definitely needs to be high energy, and it's quick and also I think she has the right humor for a game show. I don't think that you need to be. You're not doing any edgy bits. You're not doing anything that needs to be hilarious.
Do you think she'll do a lot of slave humor?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably
That's
not.
fair.
Yeah. So I think that she has that's kind of a mean way of saying, like, I don't think she's very funny, but I do think she would be a good game show host with the style of humor. She's got clearly a great resume now after being on SNL for a while. How many years? Do you know how many years she was?
She was on it for, I think she was only on it for 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Because she hasn't been on it for the last couple of years. So yeah, there you have it. Leslie, we're looking forward to seeing your version of it. And as Montney said, his quote, "You're not very funny, but this could be good."
I stand by that.
All right, cool. Well, again, we'll look forward to if that makes it through the coronavirus situation and makes it on TV this year. That is pretty much Supermarket Sweep. Anything else
good. I feel
you'd
like
like
we covered
to add?
everything.
We covered it all.
David Ruprecht, Man Boy, bad teasers, upcoming.
Jeroschner. Don't forget about Jeroschner.
Which is a real name.
That arguably that is a real name. And get to your local food fair and pick up some beef shin meat on sale right now.
God.
Anyway, that has been another episode of Come On Down, the game show podcast, where we talk about a different game show every single week. That was Supermarket Sweep, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.